Hello and welcome to Colred Plays Raid Shadow Legends. I am Colred. Thank you for joining me. I am running a dungeon run here, a dragon run in the background because there is a fusion event going on and I need points for dungeon divers. However, that is not what today's video is about. Today's video is about a question that a viewer asked me on a recent video. And the viewer said, "I'm having trouble progressing. I feel like I'm stuck. What can I do?" Now, this question is a really important question because there are things that you can do to kickstart progress again, or at least work on progress in between the moments where big progress happens. Raid progress often happens in bursts. We get a brand new champion, or we unlock a level of clan boss, and all of a sudden the account jumps forward. But in between those peaks are valleys where we basically don't see much progress, and those can be a bit disheartening. We can feel bored, we can get, frustrated. So what do you do during those boring, frustrating times? Now, I have a method for generating progress during these down times. I also have a mentality that I like to get into during those periods of time. So I'm going to share those with you. And we do have a step-by-step guide to how you can put these methods into practice. And so I think that whether you are a new player or an intermediate player, whether you're a long-term player, if you ever struggle with the grind of grindy games, this method should at least provide some value to you and a way to potentially improve those down times. Okay, so if you have watched some of my videos before, you may be familiar with this screen. This is my raid guide, how to make progress when you get stuck. Okay, so let's jump into the guide. And the first thing that I want to mention is that progress comes from you. Now, I know that can sound a little bit like self-help book kind of mantra-ish, but I mean this in a very practical way. Remember that you control how you approach the game, and that means whether you progress or don't progress is almost entirely up to you. And to just drive that point home, I put two lists here up. And on the left, you can see aspects of progress in Raid Shadow Legends that are out of your control or out of any player's control. And on the right, the aspects that are within our control. And you can see there are many more aspects that are within our control. And by the way, I stopped at 10. I came up with like 25, but obviously I didn't want to go that far. So just know that that list actually continues on and on. So really quickly, what is out of our control? What is out of our control specifically in terms of progress? Because there are things outside of our control, like the artwork or something like that, or like the scheduling. Those things are also out of our control. But the things that specifically affect progress. And the first is shard pull result. We can't control our shard pull result. In fact, the first thing on the other side is how much money you spend in the game. And that is something that's within our control. And usually we use that to try to control shard pull results. So let's say there's a shard pull event going on and you decide to pull a bunch of shards and you don't hit the champion you want. You can reach into your wallet, you can pull out your credit card, you can buy some more shards, and you can keep going. That feels like a form of control, but that's not really control. That's just doing what Raid wants you to do, right? The reason that they are in the game and they make shard pulls so random is because that's the gambling element of gacha games. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't spend money, and I'm not saying that if you do spend money, it won't help you get better results. What I am saying is how much money you spend on the game is entirely up to you, but the way that that money actually turns into progress is a bit random, and that's outside of your control. Okay. Now, the second thing here is the development path of the game. And what I mean by that is you can't control what future champions are coming down the line. Next month's fusion may be a phenomenal champion for some players and a completely useless champion for other players, and you have no control over that. Additionally, there might be new dungeons or new battles that get opened up that are really easy for you to complete right away because of the champion roster that you have, or sometimes it's impossible for you to complete and you have to build a whole new roster just to progress in that area. So again, the development of the game is also out of your control in terms of progress. Now, on the other side, I'm not necessarily going to dive deep into every single bullet point here, but I just want to list some things that are also within your control. How much time you spend in the game, obviously. How you spend your in-game resources. Where do you put those resources? What do you focus on? How you manage your roster and how you try to improve your roster. And these are two slightly different things. The first one is more like how a manager of a baseball team would pick a starting lineup. Like, who are your top champions? What's your top team composition? Where do you use those compositions in those champions? The second one is, how do you try to improve that roster? Are you always going for new champions to add to it? Or are you trying to max out the champions you currently have on the roster? Are you re-gearing them? Are you changing their masteries? Are you trying new compositions in order to improve the performance of the champions you already own? Now, what your in-game goals are, that's up to you. You can decide where you want to focus, how much you want to learn. Now, if you're watching this video, obviously you want to learn somewhat, but how much time and effort do you want to put into learning? Do you just want to watch a few videos? Do you want to read a bunch of websites? Do you want to join a Discord community or talk to your clanmates who are more experienced to try to eke every little bit of progress out of your knowledge? Or are you just more of a casual learner? You want to watch a couple of videos and just have fun? That's entirely up to you. Where do you go to learn? We just went over that. So, and then how do you enjoy the game? And this is also up to you. It might not feel like it's up to you because we all have our own kind of personalities, and what we enjoy isn't always a matter of choice. It's sort of a matter of happenstance. But you can decide you're going to enjoy this game just a few hours a week, or you can decide you're going to dig into this, or you're going to decide you're going to play it solo, or you can decide you're going to play as part of a social group with your friends, or with a clan, or with a cluster. So you can decide how you enjoy the game. And then finally, you can decide what you do when you fail. When you fail, do you give up and throw the game down and walk off in frustration? That is a valid response, by the way. Or do you get determined and decide, no, I'm not going to let this game conquer me. I'm going to conquer it instead, which is another valid way. Neither one is necessarily better than the other. Remember, you have to game in a way that is enjoyable to you. So look back at 9. There is no right response to failure in a video game. It is entirely up to you what your response is, but there are different responses, and that will affect your progress within the game. Okay, so what I want you to start thinking about is getting out of the let's go mode. You know what I'm talking about, the let's go. Okay, that's a temporary place. That's a high peak that we can't live at that high peak all the time. So let's get out of that mode and get into the go mode. And the go mode is, I'm on the job. I'm looking at this. I'm gonna beat this thing. I'm getting determined. I'm getting focused, and I'm getting ready to go, because it's time to grind. There is always a grind, and you need to get into the grind to make progress when you are in those valleys, when those progress valleys. Okay, so now that we know that, let's go and get into the actual method here. There's an 8-step method for getting unstuck. This is the method I use. By the way, there are a lot of things you could do in addition to these 8 steps to get unstuck. You can get more specific. You can get step 3 might have like 15 things you could do. But this is sort of a basic guideline. You will grow beyond this method if you play Raid Shadow Legends or other grindy games for very long, because you'll have to. But this is a good sort of simplified version of the things that I do to get progress out of my account when it seems to be stuck. Okay, now the first thing I do, and this is usually, I'll tell you when I usually get stuck. Usually I get stuck when I miss on a shard event, or maybe 2 in a row. Or sometimes I get stuck when time has just accumulated and now my roster is the best part of my account, and I haven't done all the little things that I need to do to maximize the effect of my roster. So the first thing that I need to do in either of those situations is I need to clean house. So I go and do a gear cleanse, I go and do a vault cleanse, and then I go and do a roster cleanse. Okay, now each of those is related to the other one, but gear is going to get me, if I do a gear cleanse, I throw out all the bad gear, I'm going to free up space for more gear, obviously, and I also get a lot more silver. Then I'm going to do a vault cleanse. Now, vault cleanse is a lot about reorganizing. I try to have a system for who goes in my main roster, who goes in my primary vault and master vault, and who goes in the reserve vault, right? So I try to have a system there. I might go ahead and put symbols up or categorize different champions, so I can see at a glance who is who. Like if I have multiple copies of the same champion, I will also go into my faction guardians at this point and probably rearrange that and update that. And then finally, I'll do a roster cleanse. And a roster cleanse is very simple. For the most part, what I do is I take extra copies of epics and I turn them into books. So I start booking up the epics I want to keep with other copies of those epics. I will also take all the low-level champions that are level 20, level 30, level 40. I'll decide how many I want to keep, and I will turn the rest into chickens. So I will want to keep some at 20 or 30 or 40, but others will become chickens. I might even like finally 6-star out a 5-star champion that I've been keeping there for a long time. Or I might go ahead and, feed some champions that I know I'm never going to use that I really don't want. And I'll feed them. Usually I don't do a lot of upgrading of champions at this step. I save that for later on, but I might do a little bit just to give myself more space in my roster. I will also see if I want to spend silver or gems to increase my roster size or my vault size. Okay, now once I've cleaned house, and that's not fun, by the way, nobody likes doing that stuff. If you let it go too long, though, it will hurt your ability to like progress through other areas. So it's good to do this every once in a while. But now I'll do step 2, stock up. Okay, I've had some progress in the past, but now I'm stuck. So now I can start to do like the regular maintenance stuff. So first of all, I'm going to get into the affinity potion keeps, and I'm probably going to get a couple of hundred affinities potions of every affinity. I want to get them of different levels. I don't want just the highest one, which I think is the greater or superior or whatever. I want a little bit of everything. And so I'm going to do that for a while. I'm going to spend a few thousand energy in each potion keep. And that may take a few days, and that's fine. I'm going to do that because I want to stockpile those things so when I need them, I don't have to think about them. I'm going to also do the same for silver. You get silver from almost everywhere. So whether you are campaign farming or running dungeons or whatever, I'm just going to be accumulating silver. I may even go into the forge and do a little bit of a forge cleanse, sell off some low-level artifacts there. I tend to try to save those for CVCs and stuff like that. So if I can double dip, that's great. But I don't want to max out my silver bars, and I don't necessarily need those low-level pieces of gear anyway. I'm going to get mystery shards. I don't want to be using too many mystery shards during this time. I want to compile them for another event or fusion event later on. So usually you can get those from campaign. That's the easiest place, but I'm also going to be buying them from the market. And finally, I'm going to be stocking up on my energy pots, also my XP banners. Anything that comes free as a free reward that stays in my mailbox, I'm going to let that sit there and I'm not going to use it. I'm just going to start stockpiling energy and experience banners so that I can really, use them when I need them. Okay, so after I've stocked up and I've cleaned house, now my account feels more organized. But now I have to actually address my champions. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to try to optimize my roster. So what I mean by that is I haven't gotten any new champions, right? I failed the last 2 shard pull events. I'm sitting on the same champions that I had 4 weeks ago or 6 weeks ago or whatever it is. So basically what I'm going to try to do is start looking at the champions that I've built. I'm going to make sure that I've actually built them all the way. Sometimes you start building a champion and then you get a new champion, you start building that one and you get a new one and you start building that one, and you never actually finish off the champions that you already own. So the first thing I'm going to do is check my masteries. Have I gotten everybody all the way to the 6th tier of mastery? Do I need to? In some cases, I don't. But I might even run up champions that are 5-star that I think I might promote in the future who are still at like tier 2 or tier 3 of masteries. I might get them some more. So masteries are really the first place I go to start to optimize my roster. After that, I make sure that I have everybody ascended to where I want them to. I was just getting affinity potions, so I should have a nice stockpile to complete any ascensions that I need. The next thing is I'm going to look for awakenings. Now, I'm always looking for awakenings or souls or whatever they're called, right? I mean, the whole system's a little bit complicated, but I want to find the souls that I need for good champions, and then I want to start awakening them and then choosing their blessings. So I may have even gotten souls for champions, applied those souls, and then never picked a blessing because I didn't have time to research what blessing would go best on that champion. So this is a good time to do that. So now, after I've optimized my roster, all of the champions that I own are going to be in their strongest form, at least in terms of all those aspects. And now I want to continue that by going out and grinding new gear, right? And so I've just looked at all my champions. I may have an idea about what gear I need in order to make these champions even stronger. So that's the first step. Prioritize your gear needs. Do you need speed gear? Do you need crit damage gear? Do you need savage gear? Do you need something defensive like regeneration or shield? Or, do you want something with a little bit different utility? So decide what your gear needs are and go start grinding. Now that's actually going to help you continue to stock up on silver. It might even get you some shards depending on where you're farming those things. And then you want to remember gear ascension. This is something that is kind of new to the game. but you can actually ascend gear. So if you want to invest in collecting the oils from the Sand Devil's Necropolis, you can do that. You can also now ascend your accessories from whatever is dropped in the Phantom Shogun's Grove, I think it's called. So yeah, I'm still getting used to that one. There are plenty of content creators out there who have put out guides on how to best ascend your gear, so you can go and check that out. Step 5 is, now that you've got your new gear, you want to re-gear those champions that you identified as your priorities. So you're going to either tweak. In some cases, you only need small changes. Maybe you need a little more accuracy or a little more speed, and you don't have to do a full rebuild. Or in other cases, you're like, no, I want to get this guy out of an offense set and into a savage set because that's going to max out his damage. And so I'm doing a complete rebuild. Again, remember, you need silver to do a rebuild. So obviously, if there's an event going on where you can change gear with less silver, that's great. But if you don't have that going on, you're going to need a lot more silver. But again, we've been accumulating silver this whole time. The one thing I want to mention here is don't forget glyphs. A lot of people do forget glyphs. And I think that when you rebuild a champion, you can forget the glyphs. And sometimes even like the lowest level glyphs that just give you maybe 1 more speed or 5 more attack. Like once you put 10 or 20 of those into your set, because you can put 18 or you could put up to 24, I think, depending, or even at Mythic, you could put more. So you can definitely put a lot of glyphs onto a gear set. And that will give you, through the accumulation of all of those little stats, it'll give you some nice stat improvements. Okay, so now that you've gotten your roster optimized and re-geared, now you want to start pushing your maxes. Okay, now this can be in dungeon stages, it can be in Doom Tower, it can be Doom Tower waves or Doom Tower bosses, it can be an arena or 3v3 arena, but you want to find areas where you have a max that you haven't been able to push past, and now push as hard as you can. See if you can get past it. And there's actually something that goes on specifically with dungeons that happens a lot, which is sometimes you get stuck because of affinity. Like the dragon boss is harder for you on spirit affinity than he is on magic affinity. So you just need to get past that spirit affinity level, and then you can actually make more progress. You can get all the way up to the next spirit affinity dragon. So in order to get past that roadblock, consider going into manual and doing the battles on manual. I would also say this is true of arena and 3v3 arena. You will have more successes once you get good at manualing battles, because that's going to be like you're smarter than the AI basically, and you can make judgments in real time that are going to benefit you. So whether that is in Doom Tower or in arena or in dungeons, consider doing that, and that's going to help you push your max and raise those maxes. Step 7 is skill up. So this is no longer your account, this is you. Research answers to all the questions you've been putting off. If you've been making consistent progress for 3 months and all of a sudden you hit a dead spot, I guarantee you came up with questions during those 3 months that you just never got answers to because it didn't matter that much because you were progressing. But now those answers matter. Maybe you don't understand a concept, a way a buff works or debuff works, an interaction of skills. Maybe you don't understand the best way to approach a particular boss fight. This is the time to go and get those answers, because once you get those answers, you might find you're not as stuck as you think you are. You still have a way to progress. And now we get to step 8, which is get prepared. So you will begin to anticipate when this low activity, low progress, stretch of time is ending. So you want to start using the end of that time to get prepared to be able to make burst progress again. And in order to do that, you're going to need to prep some food champions so you can 6-star champions quickly. You might want to stockpile shards if there is a shard event coming up. And you might want to also prepare for a fusion or fragment event that is coming up in the next couple of weeks. All of those moments give you an opportunity for burst progress. And if you are not prepared for that burst progress, you won't be able to take advantage of it when it happens. Okay, so that's 8 steps for getting your raid account unstuck when you seem to stall out on progress. But there are a few other tips that I have that you might find helpful. So my final suggestions are these. The first thing is getting back to that mentality. I want to tell you, don't watch the clock. When you are worried about progress, you are focused on progress, and then any lack of progress is extremely frustrating. If you don't watch the clock, it's kind of like, Have you ever had a job that you didn't really love, and at the end of the day, you're just watching the clock and it seems to go by so slowly? But if you ignore the clock, all of a sudden, your coworker taps on you on your shoulder and is like, "Hey, the day's over. You can go home." It's like that. If you don't watch the clock, it will feel better. So time goes by faster when you focus on playing the game and enjoying the game. Okay, the other thing I want to mention here is games are better with community. I know that a lot of us are sort of, solo players. We like to, maybe we're a little bit antisocial. We like our alone time. That's all good. But in addition, remember that there are other people out there who are playing Raid who feel the same way. Maybe you're in a clan with some of them. So try connecting with your clanmates. See if you can't find some like-minded gamers to hang out with, to talk Raid with. And that can be a great way to not only make it more fun for you, but also learn and grow. And you can help other players learn and grow. So, connect with your clanmates. If you're in a clan that is not social at all and people don't respond to you, maybe go and find a new clan, because clans are not just about beating clan boss together. Clans are about community and improving the overall game experience. That's why clans were invented in the first place. Also, you can find communities outside of the game. So you can go and join some Discord communities. You can join more than one. There are a lot of them out there. Every content creator out there basically has their own Discord community. I have one. Feel free to join mine. It is growing rapidly, and I'm really enjoying all the conversations and the fun that we're having in our Discord community. So consider doing that. You can do one or the other of these suggestions, or you can do both. So, your clan may even have a Discord community, and then you can do both at the same time. So definitely consider turning your solo game into a social game, and that may improve your enjoyment of the game. And then finally, I want to say this again, Raid is meant to be fun. And again, I don't mean that in sort of a cliche way. People say, games are fun, chill out, man. I'm not talking about that. I hate the word relax when people are like, it's just a game, relax. I hate that, right? Don't tell me relax. I take the game seriously, and that's fun for me, right? But what I mean is, however you define fun, that's what it should be for you, or why are you doing it, right? So for me, it's a serious endeavor. I really enjoy unlocking the puzzles, and I enjoy the challenge of unlocking the puzzles. If the game got too easy, I would walk away from it. However, for other people, what they may like about it is, the seeing the battles, or collecting the champions, or learning the lore, or whatever it happens to be. So whatever it is that is fun for you, make sure that's what you're getting out of Raid. Okay. And ultimately, if Raid feels like a job, maybe take a break. Try something new. Do something else. Go play a different game you like, or stop playing a game altogether. Put down the phone, put down the tablet, walk away from the computer, hang out with your dog, hang out with your partner, go for a walk, do something else. It doesn't matter what it is. Watch, binge watch a series on Netflix. But my point is, when Raid starts feeling like a job, it's not giving you what you're supposed to be getting out of it. So if those low spots, if those valleys of lack of progress are really frustrating you and really destroying your love of the game, then maybe it's time to go and do a different kind of game. Go play something that is a little bit more your style. Even if it seems like, I've invested so much in Raid, why should I walk away from it? It's like, well, it's had its time and place. It's entertained you for however long it has. And now it seems to be too much of a job, and I'm going to go do something else. That is it for me. I hope you found this video helpful. Obviously, there are very practical suggestions here. There are also some that are a little bit more philosophical, but I like to approach gaming from both sides, and I hope you've enjoyed that and found value in it. If you did enjoy the guide, I'd ask you to drop a like to this video. Also consider subscribing to the channel. We are growing quickly. It's been a lot of fun. Also think about joining our Discord community. That is also growing quickly, and it's just a fun way to engage with my viewers. We answer questions, we talk about Raid, we theory craft, we do all of those things. So if that sounds enjoyable to you, please consider joining our Discord community. The link should be in the description of this video. It should also be in the About page on my YouTube channel, and there should even be a button there on the banner. All right, that is it for me today. Thank you so much for hanging out. I really appreciate you being here. I hope to see you in another video very soon.